All right, sorry for the late start, but folks, it is time. I have been hinting for quite a while on the show this past week. We got a debate for you tonight. It'll be fun. Join us. Stay tuned. It is time. And we are live tonight from the great state of Florida. Welcome everyone to the Vince Dao Show. I am your galaxy-brained host, Vince Dao. And before we get into it tonight, everyone be sure to leave a like right now on the stream and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So, you guys know at this point, you read the title, but earlier this week, I've been hinting at the fact that we recorded a debate with a liberal, okay? And it was actually quite an interesting conversation. First of all, I want to say thank you to him for actually reaching out. He actually reached out to me and basically came in my DM saying we should debate this and that. And I usually don't really respond to random DMs, but I was like, you know what? This is interesting. This is content. So we actually sat down and had what I thought was a genuinely interesting back and forth conversation. And so I did say on the members block today, or the community tab, I should say, I said if we did get to 100 signups for the email list, I would release the debate on the show tonight. And we did hit that, so thank you. And by the way, if you've not yet signed up, be sure to go sign up for our free exclusive newsletter at thevincedao.com. But yeah, okay, so without further ado, we're going to get into it tonight. One last thing I do want to say, if you do want to super chat to support the show, you got comments during the debate or questions that you want read on the stream, I'm going to set up the little TTS thing here, or you know, the notification thing, this thing right here. So if you do want to super chat while we are playing the debate, I will play it then on the screen as soon as it comes in. And then we're debating two things tonight, okay? There's two things we talked about. So climate change and gender stuff, LGBT, all of that. So I may pause in the middle if we get enough super chats to go and read them all. So yeah, that's the plan for tonight, folks. I got nothing else. So without further ado, give me a drum roll in the chat. Is there a drum roll emoji? We need a drum roll emoji. I don't know. But yeah. Here it is. Here was my debate earlier with our liberal friend Peter, new character here in the lore of the show. All right, let's get into it here. All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we have something a little bit special for you guys. I've actually brought in a liberal. His name is Peter. And, you know, I haven't set this up to be a very formal debate. We're not going to do time limits or like, here's my facts and studies and yours and opening statements. But I figured it'd be interesting content to kind of have a back and forth conversation. We've agreed to talk a little bit about climate change and also LGBT issues and stuff like that. So I guess you want to start, Peter, you like to briefly introduce yourself, whatever you want people to know about you, I guess.
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm an upcoming senior. I'm from Pennsylvania. That's about it.
Okay, for sure. All right, well then let's just get into it. I guess you wanted to talk about climate change. I'll let you have the floor in terms of, I guess I'll say what my stance on climate change is. Well, I don't think we truly know how much of it is man-made and how much of it is not. I understand the greenhouse effect. I'm sure it has an effect. I don't think scientists really know how much each impacts what. And beyond that, my real answer here, my real solution is I think we need to more be pursuing innovation if climate change is going to be an inevitability of the future, rather than just, try to take, impact the climate, think we can change it or whatever, when, China, India, all these other countries pollute so much more and we're never going to get them to stop. And beyond that, I don't think we really know even if our green policies would realistically bring down climate change. I don't think we understand it that well. And so my general position is I don't think we should reduce the American quality of life for this agenda. But what is your thoughts on that?
So I want to start off by, I'm not one of those throw soup cans on paintings and say the world's ending in 5 years. Mm-hmm. Climate change, in terms of what we know, is we're talking the real catastrophic stuff is the next 50, 100 years. There's nothing we need to do in the next 5 years. It's not going to kill us. It's not going to wipe out the planet. And I definitely disagree with these people like in Sweden throwing stuff on classical paintings, ruining artwork. It's really not there. My standpoint, I very much agree with you. I think nuclear is the way to go for now. I did some math here. I just look at the number. When comparing it to coal and natural gas, in terms of cost efficacy, it's about 23,000 times more efficient in terms of producing energy.
Mm-hmm.
And when talking about just raw power output, it's about 509 million times more efficient. So I think I 100% agree with you in terms of innovation and in terms of we need to find ways to do this. But I do think we do need to pay attention to it because obviously you have industries like the chocolate industry, the coffee industry, fishing industries, a lot of marine stuff because ocean pH is going up from CO2 dissolving in it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we do need to put some focus into it, but it's not as urgent as other liberals will say it is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I appreciate the nuclear energy answer then, because I think that's intellectually honest, and I would tend to agree. Nuclear energy is far safer than most people make it out to be. In fact, we could fact check this statistic, but I'm pretty sure actually solar and wind technology kills more people on year through accident stuff on average than does nuclear. And so, yeah, it's very efficient, all of that stuff. What is your thoughts then on these solar panels and windmills? Because the way I look at that stuff, it barely yields any energy, and it actually has an impact on the environment that is negative that a lot of people don't understand. You know, trees are a big thing in terms of actually climate change. They and other stuff too, right? They reduce the chances of floods, they regulate climate, they keep the temperature cool, all of that stuff.
Exactly.
And if we're going to have this country where it's all solar power and wind power, then, you know, we're actually going to do a lot of damage to our environment with that. You know, all the windmills kill birds, all that stuff. So what's your thoughts on the wind and solar stuff?
I think when talking about renewable, I guess you're overviewing renewable.
Yeah.
We're looking at the wrong, like everyone wants to say solar panels are actually not efficient at all.
Yeah.
The best models we have, about 23% of the energy coming in from the sun will get turned into electrical, which is high compared to things like burning natural gas. But then you have nuclear that's like 80% efficient. And wind energy, I think it's much more useful, but off coast. Or when you're up high in an elevation where you have a lot of wind. I think the real potential in renewable energy, talking zero waste, like nuclear obviously has waste and we need to learn how to deal with it, but we have a lot more time to learn to deal with that. But in terms of non-waste making renewable sources, we need to look at the ocean because you're harnessing the power of the tide and currents, and they're doing this too. It's called the blowhole. It uses the power of waves to push air up through. But you're talking about, we have wind. Wow. I'm talking about the gravitational field of the earth and the moon moving our ocean to produce electricity, right? So I think mainstream politicians will say, like, we need solar, we need wind. We need to look at the more niche options that are actually proving effective. That's my stand on solar and wind and renewables.
I mean, I think that's a fair answer. Then I think we actually probably agree a lot more on this question than I imagined. But I guess we could get into some other aspects of the environmentalism movement. So let's just see. I guess, you know, there's other components of this. For instance, the whole plastic straw, you know, war. I think what I very often see from the environmentalists is there are actually some things that I would inclined to want to agree with as sort of a conservationist and stuff. And, you know, I actually think your side sometimes does have a point when it comes to plastics, specifically microplastics, because, you know, as obviously on the right wing, we care a lot about something like male testosterone. And actually big reason that is declining is because there's so many microplastics in everything. Receipt paper.
Could I add something?
Go ahead. Yeah.
In the oceans overall in the world, so, you know, our galaxy cluster is massive, right? There's more microplastic particles in the oceans than there are stars in our galaxy cluster. So,
and I believe that. I believe that. Yeah.
And that does kill testosterone. So that's
sure. So my problem though with the way the environmentalists go about this is they'll do something like plastic straws, right? Which is such a minuscule thing in comparison. You know, all the receipt paper we touch, all the Tupperware, all the microplastics and everything, and like their big focus is plastic straws. And I see that sort of behavior a lot. They'll focus on things that are not efficient, that kind of just make your life harder, you know what I mean? Like these paper straws, half the time they don't work. So do you think that the environmentalist movement, especially on the left, focuses way too much on sort of these inefficient, random, unnecessary things as compared to the bigger picture, which is we want clean air, we want clean water, and we do need to take a lot of this microplastic and stuff out of our food and ingredients and all that?
I would agree to an extent, because I'd say obviously you have plastic straws. You don't want to switch to paper straws. Suck. Everyone knows that.
Yeah.
But you have things like reusable metal straws that, and I would argue, are easier than plastic straws because you
Sure.
just take
Yeah.
it,
Okay.
drink, wash it out. But the real problem is not straws and Tupperware. It's things that are meshy, like fishing nets, plastic bags. Those are what are really getting in and killing the marine life. And the plastic bags are what break down into the microplastics. So when we're looking at the oceans, you have like plastics, you have the forever like chemicals, those things that get into the body. The real focus should be the things that are in the top of the leaderboard of how much of it's in the ocean, not straws. Straws, which we've also done a great job of reducing the amount of straws used. It's gone down significantly. And you say paper straws suck, we have people using the metal straws and the wax paper straws that are okay. So I think the left really, we need to like focus up on what is actually the problem and not just straws.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is fair. Okay, then let's explore some other topics. Let's talk about agriculture then, right? You know, it's a big thing. They say specifically the industrial production of, you know, cows, cattle, livestock, you know, this contributes to all this stuff to climate change. People say you need to eat chicken, you need to go vegan, or, you know, Bill Gates and others are talking about this synthetic meat and food and all of this stuff. I mean, even if it is true that cows create a lot of, you know, greenhouse gas and whatnot, I personally have to view all that stuff to be something of a psyop. You know what I mean? I think they just don't want us to eat red meat, and I think they have a war against it, and they use that as an excuse. But what is your thoughts? Do you think we need to make the world vegan? Do you think we need to reduce red meat? What's your take there?
So I have a friend who's vegetarian, and we've talked about this before. It has been shown that being vegetarian will reduce your carbon and your methane footprint, and obviously those are the big two. But I don't think we need to look at this and say everyone needs to go vegan or everyone needs to do this. This is more of a, like you said, innovation. Let's look at how horrible our agricultural system treats the environment around it and fix that instead of saying you go vegan, soy's better, tofu's better. And you have like I guess this is important too, but the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, I'm a student leader. And what we noticed, the biggest thing here in Pennsylvania in terms of impacting the Chesapeake watershed is the cow poop in the streams. It's not even the gases they're releasing. It's what it's doing to the stream pH and how it's wrecking local ecosystems and watersheds. And the biggest way to fix that is, shocker, plant plants. There are things called buffer zones. They keep the poop out of the streams, they keep the cows out of the streams, and they trap the carbon and the methane. So I think the left is over here, like a lot of us are saying, go vegan. Some of us will say, and then you have the right saying it's not a problem. I think it is a problem, but the solution is obvious, but being overlooked. It's plants. It's not eating plants, it's planting plants.
I mean, I've never heard that before, but that's interesting. I think that makes sense. For the record, I have a lot of problems from my own side with the way our agricultural industry is produced, specifically all of the hormones and RBST and all this stuff. We feed our livestock, and that comes off to humans, and there's a lot of issues there. So, you know, I'm no defender of the agricultural industry. I just think that the war against the meat, I would argue there's an agenda by that on your side, but regardless, I think. I don't think that lab meat or you know, veganism or whatever is the answer, but I think we kind of agree on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as someone on this side, and as someone, like I said, my friend's vegetarian, I don't know what's going on with Bill Gates and them, but your average everyday vegan doesn't have an agenda necessarily. So that's where I would disagree. But
well, I think they're the victims of an agenda, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I think, but for him, it's just a lifestyle choice. I mean, I obviously respect it. It's working for him. So I think it really needs to come down to agrarian reform and not sitting here banning meat or lab grown meat or things that just are impractical.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. All right. Well, I guess last question on the environment front is, what are your thoughts on combustion engines, gas powered cars? Do you think they need to be gotten rid of? What's your stance there?
So this is where I'll go through a couple of my notes here because I have some statistics. Gas combustion cars, like your everyday car, the combined total of American, their yearly output is not even a full % of our carbon output. It's really, we're looking at things that we say, like you'll point at, oh, carbon's coming out of there. Carbon's also coming out of manufacturing plants. 8% of our CO2 comes from cement. And I know you were on the other night reacting to the whole architecture thing with Tucker Carlson. The way we make concrete and cement sucks.
I could imagine.
And if you look at the way the ancient Romans made their concrete, that's still around, by the way, 5,000 years later, or not five, but you know, But it's still there, and it did not it did not release carbon to make it. So I think we need to look at, we don't need to ban gas cars. If you want to have an electric car, that's your choice. You don't need to ban combustion vehicles. Sure, you can make them better. Sure, you can find ways to reduce emissions for them. Banning them outright will solve nothing. We need to look at our manufacturing industries, our power making industries. And I think the third, transportation, not like personal transportation, but obviously celebs in their private jets. A celeb in one flight from LA to New York will generate more carbon than a combustion vehicle over an entire year. And that is a statistic that, again, is just overlooked.
How are you a liberal? I find myself agreeing with like basically 90% of everything you're saying. I think that's completely reasonable and true. Yeah, I think, but like I said, I think the problem with the environmentalism movement is they'll fixate on these things that are frivolous. They're not actually impacting, the emissions a lot. And in my opinion, I think very often it's that because it has the most impact on the normal person, right? The normal person needs to drive the car, the private jet, those are the people who are pushing the agenda, so they don't want to be affected. They don't want to have to lower their quality of life.
I got to get to work. They don't have to necessarily go to the Met Gala or whatever. It's that simple.
Sure.
But, I mean, the reason I'd say here that I'm a liberal is most of the time you'll see, like, we obviously know plastic straws were a problem at some point. They still are to a degree. And so we go and we say, hey, plastic straws. And now the media is just like, plastic straws, plastic straws, plastic straws. And I'm like, well, there's this too. And they're like, plastic straws. So I think we need to just, as a community, as the United States, we need to agree there is a problem. And the solution is not do nothing or do everything. It's something in the middle that is achievable. And that's the message I'm trying to get out there.
I mean, I think especially in questions on the environment, fair enough. Because I'm not just like keep polluting the air and water. I mean, I live in this country. I want to have a family in this country. I want them to breathe clean air and water as well. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that's fair. I get that. So let me think, where could we take this from here? I don't, is there anything, last thing you wanted to say on the environmentalism front? I mean,
let me look through. I think there might've been something here, okay. But I guess an argument, because I know this is less with you and more people. I don't want to say people like in your audience or whatever, but some people who are on your side will say we're in a natural cycle right now with I'll show the CO2 graph of how it's going up, and they'll say, oh, it's the natural cycle. Because obviously we have the data from the ice caps over the past 800,000 years or so. It's been up and down. My response to that is, according to that data, which you're trying to use against me, we should be in a CO2 decrease right now. And we're currently at a slope that is 10 times higher than any other point, and at a point that is double the previous max in what should be a cooling cycle. And we're seeing global temperatures raise by, we obviously 4th of July, hottest average global temperature in a while. We have CO2 levels, we're raising like a degree Celsius. We've gone up on average, and we're estimated over the next 100 years to go about 3. And that would be truly catastrophic, not to us necessarily, but you look at countries like Bangladesh, 80% of their country is a floodplain. 0.3, like every year the ocean raises 1/10 of an inch. If you're looking over like a decade, that's an inch. If they're 1 more inch below sea level, and you're having monsoons and typhoons more often, they're just simply not going to be able to deal with it because they're an underdeveloped country. So I think we need to have also some empathy for the rest of the world that isn't suffering or is suffering more than us, in terms of when people are talking about like, oh, it won't be a problem for so long. It will be. And we have temp trends going up. We're not in the right natural cycle. And you're not only seeing more extreme maxes with heat, you're seeing more extreme cold too in the winter. And that is going to further ruin agriculture and industry.
Well, I'm sure that CO2, I mean, yeah, obviously humans are putting more CO2 into the atmosphere. That would be undeniable. But I think in terms of temperature, I mean, I think there's a lot there that we don't really fully understand, because from the period of about 1200 to 1700, you may know about this, but the Earth went through what we call the Little Ice Age, right? It went through a cooling period. And the climate people always say, well, cooling and heating never happens on the span of hundreds of years, but it actually does, because you look at the Little Ice Age from that period, the Roman Empire, I believe they used to grow grapes on the British island, if I'm not mistaken. So there's evidence that the climate has gotten hotter and warmer there. I mean, I do think that, yeah, human activity may have, a factor in that. I would argue, though, because of that little ice age thing, there probably is natural warming that's going on too. But my overall argument is more so, I don't think that the human quality of life needs to be lowered to any drastic degree to solve this problem. And then getting back to what we said earlier, I think you may very well be right that we're going to deal with this. Can we control it, first of all? I don't know. And I don't think anyone knows. I don't think you know that. I don't think anyone knows that. But if this is the reality, we're going to deal with, Bangladesh is going to flood more. We're going to get more extreme hurricanes. We're going to get more severe drought in California, stuff like that. Then I think we really just need to say, okay, what do we do about it? Right? Because there are things we can do about it. We can build better infrastructure. We can irrigate more, whatever. But I think that's my big thing with the climate people is they, as much as they call themselves progressive, I feel like they're sort of reactive to it when the way I see it is actually more proactive. I'm thinking ahead. Okay, we got to deal with this. We can't send the earth back to the Stone Age in terms of, industrialization. So what do we do about it going forward? That's my view on it.
Yeah, and my response to that view would obviously be, like I said, with the innovation, we don't have to, the way things can be is we can take quality of life and make it better, keep going forward, and still fix the problem. Like, we're always creating better technology, better farming technology. We'll have more food and less space, less carbon emissions. That's a win-win-win-win-win. There's just absolutely no loss there. So I think,
fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Okay. So I think that basically wraps it up on the environment front. I don't really have much else. So let's talk a little bit about this. I mean, I call it the alphabet stuff for YouTube keywords, but we'll since it's a debate, we'll say, okay. Before we continue here, I do want to really quickly read our super chats. So let's get to these right here. Sheeny Beanie for $5 says, climate change is the answer to every question you never asked. So true. Thank you for the $5. Sheeny Beanie, we got a $2 here, ladies and gentlemen, from, if it'll play. It will not play. There you go. Potato Head Pokemaro says, is he even a liberal? Well, he clearly is a moderate one, which, I mean, think about it for a second. He actually reached out to me wanting to have a discussion. So, I think you could expect he would have more reasonable opinions on stuff, which I generally thought, we're about to disagree pretty heavily on the gender LGBT stuff, but I think overall, at least he approached it civilly, and yeah, there are some beliefs he has that are at least consistent at the very least. So yeah, thank you for the $2. It is true. I don't know why that keeps playing, but Burgundy Blue, I don't know why it does this, guys. Burgundy Blue for $20 says, hey Vince, could you ask him what are your views on sustainability? Will we have to shift to a post-growth economy to stop climate change long term? Okay, I don't know why it keeps doing that. Thank you for the $20 though. Big donation there from Burgundy Blue, and he is in the live chat. He is in the live chat, so you can ask him there. Thank you for the $20. All right, let's continue this. Again, guys, if you want to super chat these show, I will get to them, and we're going to play them here on the screen and pause at appropriate times. Okay, here's us talking about LGBT and gender issues. Here's where it gets, I guess, a little more interesting, you could say. I know it's Frozen Savage Grunt. I paused to read the super chats, okay? LGBT issues, okay? Let's just explore this. It'll be fun. I guess let's start it off with the most time-answered old adage. Okay, so let's just okay. It's 2016 all over again. How many genders are there, Peter? How many genders are there?
I would like to start this off kind of with more of a non-numerical answer, but the way I view it, there's two sexes, right? You have your medical sexes, male and female. You go to the hospital. Are you this? We have to treat you based on that. And then with genders, I'd say at least 3 is my answer.
So what's the third one?
So if you look historically in language, since language has been spoken, a majority of language has used a neuter pronoun. If you look at German, der, die, das, what's das? It's it. So I think if you're going to base that off of kind of conserving past traditions for obviously conservatives, then for the longest time, civilization has recognized a third gender. There's been people who have identified as it. It's been used in language. So I think the neuter gender is the at least third. So
you think the third gender is an it?
Yes, neuter.
Okay, I mean, very interesting. I don't know how much they like to be called that, but I mean, okay.
It's grammatically that's how it is.
But it is so true, yeah. You are right. Grammatically, it's not they them. It would be it that, right? But so I think though the reason why we've always had that sort of third gender pronoun is not because past societies have viewed there to be a third gender. It's just a
It's
general
inanimate objects.
Yeah, or if you don't know if because correct in English you're supposed to say he or she, but a lot of times we'll just say they as a vague, whatever, just to describe if you don't know the gender or something. So I don't know. I don't think that's a third pronoun, a third gender. I just think people have always done that because there are things that are non-gendered or you don't know the gender, so you just have to have a third classification. I think that's just linguistic.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't have a problem with someone saying like I don't want to identify with a gender. I think it's called non-binary. But if you want to go without either one, I think that should be recognized as a third. And for the at least, if you want to identify what you want to identify as, that goes right by me. I don't really have a problem. You want to be this, you want to be that, you want to be whatever the neo pronouns are, the fairy pronouns. So what? That's my response. I don't. If you want to say there's only two genders, and someone whines about it. Well, you're entitled to believe there's only two genders, just like they're entitled to identify as more than two genders. So
let's do the thought exercise then. So if I came out, like Piers Morgan said, and said, I want to be a two-spirit penguin, would you recognize me as a two-spirit penguin?
I think it would be a little ridiculous, but if that's what you wanted, for my respect, I would.
Okay. I mean, I understand that, I guess. So your take is basically, if someone wants to be this or that, you just don't really care. It's sort of almost like a socially libertarian take. Is that sort of what you're saying about it?
I think because gender has been usually recognized as a social construct. So I think to say we can limit it, so like it needs to be limited to two when it's something so obviously social constructs grow, expand over time, or they can contract too, based on whatever society's saying. I'd say it's like in terms, there's definitely more than two.
So here's my problem is that you can say, I just respect whatever you want me to call you, what you want me to call you. I mean, that's fine. But I think ultimately what you're seeing now is that society is going to have to decide one or the other, which is true, right? Either there are two genders or there are this spectrum, multi-gender, 72 genders, whatever it is, right? Because what happens inherently is very often people are going to want to have to decide something is true or not objectively, or in their eyes objectively, and then assert it on everyone else, right? And so now what you're seeing, I mean, if you're going to say, oh, I'll respect it, you don't have to respect it, that's fine, that's fair. But now you're basically seeing it's kind of in some ways becoming state mandated in schools and all that stuff, workplace, whatever. So we're reaching a point where it's not enough to say it's your personal opinion whether or not you want to respect someone's other genders. And so that's my issue. And so I think I would like an answer from you genuinely deep down, and not just in terms of, I'll respect whatever people want to be called. That's fine. But I think at some point we have to decide, what do you really believe is true deep down? Do you think there's two genders? Do you think there's 3, 72, infinite? Like, what's your actual thoughts deep down on it?
I really would say deep down that in terms of gender, obviously I don't want to deflect and do the whole gender sex split, but if we're talking solely about gender, as many as we decide there are. That's my true deep down answer.
Okay, so you think it's just basically like made up, right? Then it's
I would
whatever.
say a spectrum. Absolutely, it's made up.
Okay, so anyone can identify as basically their own gender. You can make them up on the spot or whatever, right? Is that
sure? Yeah.
Okay.
I would be behind that.
So if that's the case, though, right, then why do we make it a scientific thing? Because you see, like, they try to say, well, the scientists are saying that it's a real thing, and and then why do we cut the number at 72 or 3 or whatever? I think that's where it gets confusing. Is it just this, that's my personal identity, this is how I personally identify, or is this something that, as they try to argue, is something sort of objective? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, identity, I would say, in terms of identity, like it's pretty objective that my name's Peter. I can go change my name. It would be objective that I'm now Jeremy, right? So I think if you want to do that with gender, which is an identity thing, it should be the same way. We should hold it to the same standard.
Okay. I mean, interesting opinions, I suppose. So let's see, where else could we take this conversation?
If you'd like, I mean, I could explain the way I have it. I call it the 3-fork breakdown. Where I say the difference is you have gender, which is your societal, cultural thing. You have sex, which is your medical, and you have biology, which cannot change at all. Like I can go out there, grow out my hair, get gender reassigning surgery, get hormone replacement therapy. obviously my gender would switch in that case, and even my sex a bit too, because since that's medical, if I were to go like certain antibiotics have to be prescribed based on your hormone levels. Otherwise, you can face harm. So if someone comes in the hospital identifying as a female and their medical sex is a female, but they were a male at birth and they're treated as a male at birth, they could die potentially if you're using a strong enough drug.
Then here, I guess I have a question then. So what does gender, quote unquote, actually mean to you? You say it's something different from sex, and I won't say I subscribe to the liberal position at all, but I do kind of understand the argument that yes, there's biologically, physically what we are, but there's also sort of something innately what we are in terms of men and women. The difference with me is I don't think they're fluid. I don't think you can just make it up, but I am religious, right? I do believe in a soul. I do believe that there's something about a man that's more than just, his genitals versus female genitals. But what does gender mean to you then?
To me, gender, like I said, it's more of an identity term. It's more about how you choose to identify in relation to what your sex is. And obviously, like I've been reiterating, sex is that part of like that factual physical part of you. And then you have your biology, which is your XX or your XY. You cannot, nowhere in the coming future will a human be able to go in and change their gene to XY, whatever. You want to be a female to male, change.
Well, I hope not. They might somehow figure out a way to do that, but I hope not.
I think based on what CRISPR does, that would straight up kill you. So I don't know if that's coming at all. But yeah, that's my thought on that. I think gender is sort of like your name, and then sex is sort of like your height, things that are coded into your genetics, like your skin color, whether you have a freckle here or not. So that's my take on that.
So if you would acknowledge that male and female are two of the genders in your eyes, what differentiates male and female? Because obviously in terms of sex, according to you, yeah, that'd be XY, testosterone, estrogen. What would define the male and female gender?
How you would choose to identify with it. Like if you want to say the liberal, what pronouns you'd use, or sort of how you tell people you identify as, that's how the difference would be how you'd identify.
So there's in your eyes, there's no concrete, this defines a male and this defines a female in terms of gender?
In terms of gender, yes. I mean, obviously there's like you look at some of the short hair, more of a kind of like strong jaw outline, taller, more athletic looking, the biological characteristics of a man, you're going to think male. And that's something that you really can't take away from humanity. But I think there's no concrete, when it comes to gender, there's no concrete divider.
Do you think there are less concrete dividers is there any divider? Is it just literally in your eyes what you call yourself?
Yeah, like I just said, that there's kind of feelings about it. Like I want to look at someone and say, I feel like they'd be a boy. Like, those TikToks where it's like thirst traps.
Well, you might
get
canceled for that. I think that's a bit bigoted. No, just kidding. Go ahead.
That's the other thing. My problem with this too is people are just way too sensitive. I understand that you want to identify this way and someone messes up. If I call someone the wrong name, they don't flip out and scream at me. They're usually just like, oh no, it's this, not that. And people need to kind of, if you're going to treat it as your identity is not a concrete thing. So if people mess it up because it's not a concrete thing, you can't treat it like it was a concrete thing.
Well,
so that's why, yeah.
That's interesting because very often when I hear these arguments, it's odd because you're actually at least consistent about it. I hear oftentimes they'll basically make the argument for gender roles because they'll say, well, male and female, there's social constructs, this expectation, and then it's just incoherent because at the same time, then so you're saying there's a male and female gender role. But that's sort of where I kind of feel like they're making my point because I do believe there's sort of this natural male and female gender role. That's the sense in which I do agree with gender, because I do believe if you really look at any civilization, the moment it starts, down to our biology, down to even what you see in a lot of other mammals, you see this natural sense of like a female being more of a caretaker. She's meant to care for children, nurture, more emotional intelligence. A male's supposed to be provider, protector, stuff like that. And so I do think that there is something, if you want to call it gender, whatever it is, there's something about male and female that goes beyond the chromosomes. And obviously, I guess in that specifically, you could argue it can be slightly fluid in the sense that, yeah, different cultures interpret maybe the gender role differently. They have different ideas of what it means to be a man and woman. But I would argue the theme overall is the same. But that's sort of the way I view that all is I do think there's a male and female sort of innateness beyond our physical biology that does matter and is real. I just think that it should be preserved and kept because I think, you know, in the same sense that biologically we're some way on the outside, you know, when you look at our brain, our hormones, all that stuff, I think we are a way on the inside. There's a reason why men will just naturally gravitate towards certain instincts, certain things. Females will do the same. You have exceptions, obviously. It's a huge species, but overall you see the same thing. And so there's sort of my thoughts on the gender concept, I guess.
Yeah, I think the role thing is really, it comes down to like the scale, right? You have the gender role and you have the gender fluidity. And I think there's no clear answer to that. And in the near future, there never will be because they directly, like, it's a head-to-head, like, fight there. Because you want to say there's fluidity, then there can't really be roles. I mean, there could be, but you can't say, oh, you identify as a male, you have to go be the breadwinner for your family. That's just straight up morally incorrect. But that's what I think it will end up coming down to is that big question. And it's just split off into a bunch of other questions and fights over that.
Well, I think that the fluidity thing is really only possible by modern society because I think if you nuclear war tomorrow and you had to start over human civilization, I think every at least successful tribe in society that started off would have the same behavior you see with like packs of lions, where a strong man or a strong group of man takes charge. You know, the weaker men and females will just come to follow him, and in time you just have a civilization. And I think in many ways that's the way human beings are supposed to live, and because of modern luxury we're able to kind of get away with, you know, the men don't really have to do the male job and the female, and we can kind of blend it. But I would also argue, I think that's a bubble that's bound to burst, and then over time, as the natural cycle of civilizations, you have rise and fall, I think you're always going to end up kind of getting back to that same place, in my opinion. And so I don't think it's wrong to tell a man. I mean, I certainly will tell my sons. I mean, yeah, one day you will have a family, hopefully, I hope. And if you do, you know, I do believe, yeah, it's your responsibility. Provide for your wife, provide for your children, protect them, do all the normal things. And I don't know, that's just what I believe, I guess.
Yeah, and I think my thoughts on that statement there, like if our society, we decide, okay, there's going to be a fluidity, everyone can do this. I mean, you're already looking at historically jobs were kind of separate. Like you had the women. I work in a retirement community, and I was having a talk the other night with a woman there, and she said when she went to school in the early 40s, it was women are either a school teacher, a nurse, or an office worker. And now you have women who are running missions at NASA. You have women who are exploring the oceans. You have women who are running companies. I think if we're getting together as a society and saying, okay, these roles are starting to mix with each other, then I think throwing that fluidity into it, you're not just throwing it in, it's kind of coming along. And I think that's what brought up the entire movement that we see from people who want to say gender is a spectrum. It comes from that sort of equity where everyone can do anything.
I would agree. Yeah, that's probably the source of the movement there. Let's see. There's two places I'm thinking. Either we could continue on the LGBT front or go on the feminism front, because that's sort of where the conversation, I guess, is leading. I don't know. I'll let you have your pick. Where do you want to take it?
I'd say, other than sort of the discussions on transsexualism and transgenderism, there's not too much. We can hit that if you'd like, because I think that would be
okay. Yeah, sure. Okay,
and then we can come back to feminism as well.
Yeah, well, we could do feminism some other time too. I mean, I don't want to make
sure.
This
yeah, that works.
But okay, then you want to start? You got any thoughts on that front then?
Sure. So my personal thoughts, which I'm kind of grounded in the middle, because obviously you have people like, why can't men who identify as women go into like women's weightlifting, right?
Yeah.
And you see for each of these sports, and then you have people who are like, well, obviously no, because they'll outperform them. There's a biological difference.
Yeah.
So my thoughts on this is it comes down to the sport. You have marathon runners, like marathons, where men and women will compete and have almost dead similar times. They'll be finishing in a mix. Like if you look at your average marathon, like the Boston Marathon, you don't see all the men, then all the women. You see people capable of doing it together. And then you have something like women's weightlifting and men's weightlifting, where that guy could identify as a woman, come in and break the world record by over 300 pounds. So I think when you're talking about trans people going into a certain sport, I think it comes down to how much of natural anatomy is that sport based on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the thing about marathons is that it's not really, I mean, I'm sure they do it sometimes professionally, but it's not really a professional sport, right? Anyone can go run a marathon. And I think that's why you get, some women do better than men and stuff, etc. Also, it's a long distance, so there's a little bit different, like, I guess the male advantage slightly fades off because it's more about endurance. But I think when you look, for instance, in track, you have that story with the Connecticut girl a couple years ago. I think when you maximize male and female bodily physical potential, the difference becomes obvious, right? Yeah, in the marathon, you got some like average normal guy who's not super in shape running. Sure, a woman can beat him. But I think I can't really think of a single competitive sport where it can't not be gendered, because when you're doing competitive track and people are training, the man's gonna win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I might not be able to beat Allison Felix, but overall, like a man who's truly training and maximizes his physical potential 99.9% of the time can beat most women out there. And I really can't think of a sport where that's not the case. Soccer, that would be the case. Volleyball, that'd be the case. Basketball, obviously swimming, fighting, whatever. I think all of them, in my opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, and obviously you have like sports, even more the skill-based ones like tennis. Serena Williams saying personally, Djokovic would bagel her 6-0, 6-0.
Yeah.
And this is just, for me, something really hard to sit myself on the side, because I'm up here like, well, obviously I believe people can identify as what they choose, but obviously sports, the nature of competition is who is trained better within within their anatomy. Like you didn't back in like the Olympics, you didn't have, or like the gladiator fights, you didn't have men fighting women because the man would win every time.
Yeah.
You had men fighting men, and if there were women, the women fought the women. And even the Romans who did that, who had they had homosexuality in their culture, they had sort of idea of gender fluidity, they still kind of recognize this boundary. And that's what puts me so much on the fence with this.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's even if you transition, quote unquote, all the hormones and all that, there's a lot of innate characteristics that a trans has over a biological woman, because something
it's
like
not going to change your muscular structure, your bone structure, all that.
And even physical movement. You know what I mean? In the big example of this, you kind of watch male versus female soccer or male versus female basketball. It's not like you're just watching the same game and the females are slower. There's a fundamentally different way that we move, our motor skills, even stuff like our reflexes or spatial awareness, and I think that's pretty innate. But to me, that kind of brings me to a very natural conclusion. Yeah, I don't think to any degree a biological male should be competing in a women's sport. I just don't think it makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to. I really want to say that, but I feel like I'm gonna get ousted by.
No, just anyone. Say it. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. They have like, if you take hormones, if you get gender, it's not gonna bend your pelvic bone, because that's at a different angle for both the sexes. It's not gonna change your muscular structure, your bone structure. It's not gonna edit your genetics. So yeah, that's not, trans people shouldn't be able in sports, in terms of your anatomy and your training, should not be able to compete.
Okay. I mean, we've been going for about 40 minutes now. I think this is a good conversation. I think we could definitely do this again sometime. You're reasonable. Absolutely, you're refreshing to talk to, for sure. I guess in closing here, I might just kind of tie it all back to your origin story or whatever. You don't have to get into it personally, but what makes you, I guess, identify as a liberal, or how do you really like politically identify? We talked about gender identification.
I would say I would call myself a moderate liberal, even a centrist. Okay. Anyone I've tended to debate in politics before is like, centrist, loser.
I can imagine. I can imagine.
And so the way I look at it, I have very, very left ideas. Like, I'll tell you, right? I believe gender is a fluidity, but then I look over here and I see the trans people competing in other sports. The solution's in the middle. And so the reason I'm getting into politics is I want to bring common sense to it. Like, we're just squabbling and not solving anything. And so that's what I'd say my origin story is, especially with the environment. Like, everything I've said here, you're not going to hear any MSNBC,
Well, I
CNN
think we had a
anchor,
lot of agreement on the
yeah,
environment. Yeah.
yeah, none of that's going to come out of their mouths. And I think politics is more about profit at this point. So that's why that's my origin story into
I
politics.
would agree with that. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm coming out here to just try and be productive.
Okay. Last question then. Who do you plan on voting for in 24?
24, I will be 18. My candidate, I want to see Robert Kennedy. I want to see him as the Democrat nominee.
Okay.
Him or the Green Party. I forget his name, but there's a guy from the Green Party I really agree with. But Robert Kennedy,
Cornel
Biden
West?
is not. Yeah, Cornel West.
Oh, that guy's a little crazy. But RFK, yeah, sure.
Biden. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't really like when it's like, oh, he's stuttering, and that's people's point against him. But he's too old, doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
He's over here like, I'll help the climate, and then lets the Willow Project pass, which, as an environmentalist, is devastating because that's basically like a big middle finger to all of us. So, not Biden by miles.
What makes you okay? Last, I don't want to go too long, but
no,
what makes you find Cornel West appealing then as a centrist? Because I listen to him; he's pretty radical on a lot of issues. He's very divisive on the racial stuff and all that, and all of his ideas are basically lockstep with Bernie Sanders or further left. What makes you find appealing about him? Is it anti-establishment or what is it?
I'd say when it comes to people like Bernie, who I also agree with a lot, I realize that they're coming in with all these ideas like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's not passing the House. It's not passing the Senate. It's not passing getting through the Supreme Court. So I think realistically, if you have someone like Cornel West get in as president, all the things they say they're going to do and ideas they have, only the ones that have somewhat of a universal use are going to get through. So that's why I would want someone like that as a candidate.
Mm-hmm. I suppose, but my big thing is that I think that when a president is elected, it's not just a matter of what policies they passed. In fact, if you really look the past few decades, can you really say this president's specific policy changed the whole country? I don't know if you could even say that, but I think it's more so about
what they say.
Maybe, yeah. But it's more so about the image that they project to the country. I think Obama was a big cultural shift for the country. Trump was a big cultural shift. Biden's a big cultural shift. And the concern I'd have about someone like a Cornel West especially is, even if he does get stalled by the House or whatever, he probably would promote a lot of, far left kind of shift of the culture and in turn divisiveness, right? I think he would create more political divide in the country and all that type of stuff. So that's why I find it interesting your stance as a kind of a centrist or a moderate being drawn to someone like that.
It's more, I like some of the things he's saying, but in terms of top candidate, 100% RFK.
Okay, I mean, I don't really have issues. I mean, there are things I disagree with him on, but I'm not super anti RFK or anything. Yeah,
but that's my choice. But if Biden gets the primary or whatever, which he probably will, I'd probably have to vote for him if it's against DeSantis or Trump, because I disagree with so much of what they say, truly, especially what you're saying, the cultural shift. I would not, as a leftist, I would not want it to shift towards what DeSantis wants. And you probably would from where you sit. Sure. So that's why my candidate, I would vote Biden even if, but unless, this is the other thing I don't like about modern politics is, we're sticking with the same people. Why can't a Republican come along who would look at me and say, hey, I like some of what you're saying, like someone like you. And instead we're stuck with these old people who just want to sit there and say all this and not really want to come in. And
well, see, here's my thing. People say that a lot, but I look at some of our Gen Z politicians and I'm also like, well, I mean, are we really that much? I feel like, we very often say we want younger people, but I think, obviously people like you and I, we can have a conversation, but a lot of young people in our generation are just very hyper polarized too, and kind of just go along with the same stuff. So I don't know if that would really make a difference, to tell you the honest truth.
Yeah, I would agree there too. I feel like some change is necessary because obviously Biden's in his late 70s, I think.
Yeah, he's gonna be. Well, isn't he 80 by now?
Early 80s, yeah. But that's you're having someone who's 15 years over the standard retirement age trying to run the country, and it's not fun. It's funny, but it's not fun to watch.
Yeah, it's not fun to watch the impact on our wallet either. Yeah. All right, Peter. Well, that basically wraps up all I had. I mean, we'll definitely have you on again. Right. I think this is a good conversation, and I appreciate you coming on.
Happy to be on again. Yeah. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I know I kind of reached out on a whim, but it
I think this
ended
was
up being
good.
a
Yeah,
good thing.
this was good for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, man.
All right, have a good day.
You too.
Yeah. Mic's off. Okay, folks. Well, that was the debate, ladies and gentlemen. Honest thoughts is I thought it went interesting. You know, there's a few things I wish I could have pushed back more on if I would. The thing is, it's hard to moderate and debate at the same time, right? Because I'm trying to listen to him and also move the conversation forward. And so, you know, maybe in the future, maybe not something for like that because it's casual, but maybe in the future I want someone to steer the discussion for me so that way I can just respond to the questions and the points and not do both at the same time. But yeah, that was a conversation. I mean, as you guys can probably ascertain, he's more reasonable than a lot of the other libs out there, I guess you could say. Again, I kind of expected that, I guess, to a degree, because he did reach out to me, right? And so if he actually does want to have a conversation, it's much harder to bring on the Zayed Ahmad types who will you said did not commit crime, blah blah blah, stuff like that. So all right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought. We'll try to do this more often on the channel. Hopefully we can improve it, and in the future we could do it live, because I know that obviously that was not live. Wanted to pre-record for the first time, but in the future we could definitely do this live. But okay, well, I know we did get some super chats during the debate itself. I will read them and go over them now, and we're now open to our questions, comments, Q&A. So feel free. We're open now to super chats. One thing I want to address: everyone says, Vince, you're bullying a child. Guys, I'm 20 years old. Okay, I'm 20 years old. He's a senior in high school. We would have went to high school together if we went to the same high school. We would have been in the same school at the same time. Okay, you can say, oh, you're bullying a child. I know I look old. I'm 20. And by the way, just for the record, I've been doing the politics thing since I was 15. And when I was 16 years old, Jubilee, you know Jubilee, the company that does Middle Ground. When I was 16, Jubilee invited me to go on a Middle Ground, which I didn't end up going on because I missed the email, okay? But if, according to the standards of mainstream media, if 16 years old makes you old enough to debate, if David Hogg can go out there and yell at Marco Rubio, then I can have a discussion as a 20-year-old kid with a guy who is in high school about politics, especially when he reached out to me to do it, okay? It's like, what do you want me to do? I mean, it is what it is, frankly. You guys act like I'm so much older than him. Next year, he could be a freshman in college and I'll be a senior in college. Is it wrong for me to go and debate a freshman as a senior? So just for the record, okay, we're not that different in age. I know I look older, I get it, but that's actually my age. But okay. Anyways, let me go over these super chats here. We got here. Let's see. I think we left off at this one right here. Let's see. Oh yeah, Burgundy Blue. Yeah, his name it's Peter. It's Peter in the chat. Thank you for the $5. Okay, next on to our next super chat here. If it'll move off the screen, there we go. There we go. Potato Head says, hashtag make Vince Dao the Emperor of Rome. It's so true. You know, I don't even pass, but I do have that genetics in me, okay? I am a quarter Italian, so okay, I don't know why it does this. Shut up! All right. But yeah, I will, it is time. We will riot on Rome. Giorgia Meloni, she'll just hand it to me. She'll be, yes, you're the new emperor. She can stay as prime minister. It's fine. We love her. But yeah. All right. Anyways, here we go. We got a friendly medic for $5 says, Vince, you should have asked him what he thinks of beating it up. Well, Peter in the chat, what do you think of beating it up, Peter? What do you think of beating it up? Thank you for the $5. What do you think of beating it up? Peter's going to be like, what does this mean? Well, Peter, what do you think of beating it up? Do you beat it up on a daily basis? This is an important question, okay? If he can't give a proper answer to this, then the next debate will be far less civil, okay? We're gonna hound him for an answer on this question. It is very true. It's so real and true. Just catching up, the lib kid wasn't that bad. Yeah, like I said, I think if you reach out to someone to have a debate like that, not always, but sometimes you're gonna get someone who's more reasonable, and it's fine. It's fine. I want to do more debates on the channel. So we'll definitely mix it up. I'll try to get some of the crazier libs and we can get the content, and I'll try to get people who are closer in the middle, maybe some libertarian types. I want to start having more discussions on the channel. I want to do that more. So I don't know the exact format. I mean, we do have the podcast studio like I've been talking about. When school starts back up again, I want to try to get some people from school and have some political discussions there. But even on the kind of Zoom call over the internet thing, I want to set up some stuff like that as well. So we could, Trump DeSantis is the easiest to do because I can actually get conservatives on the show. It's very hard getting liberals on the show and leftists because, first of all, I don't know any. Okay, believe it or not, I don't have any liberal friends. So I it's kind of hard to, hey, you know anyone? No, bro. Do you know anyone? But so I'll try to find a way. I want to get this set up more. But yeah, thank you for the $5 friendly medic. Thank you to all the super chats we've gotten. Again, we're open now for our Q&A. We'll go till about 9:10 or so here, and then I'll call it a night. So feel free, folks, if you want to super chat, if you want to support the show, feel free to do so. I appreciate it very much. Victor Shi is next. Hey, look, we're working on it, okay? We're working on it. I don't know how to get Victor Shi on, okay? Liesel Igfried says, debate me on anime. Now, that's an idea. That is something we could look into. Maybe that's another idea. Oh, get Cenk Uygur? How do you even get Cenk Uygur? Cenk Uygur would not come on my channel. Oh, I'm Cenk Uygur. I'm going to go on this random conservative channel. One day when we're bigger, when we're of prominence in the media space, maybe it'll happen, okay? That would be, whoa, Cenk Uygur! I'd have a hard time not laughing though, because I would want to do my Cenk impression in front of him. He's gonna be like, "You're a fascist," and I'm gonna say back to him, "You're a fascist," and he'd be like, "What?" But so if I ever do one day debate Cenk when we're much bigger on this channel, and you see me cracking up and laughing, okay, no to yourself, that will have been the reason why. All right, but anyways, we got a $20 super chat here from Sai. Let me play the sound effect. Hold on, give me a second. Okay, hold on. Sorry that this thing is. All right, come on. Can we play the sound effect? It's a 20. Come on, Streamlabs. There we go. Says I don't know if I'd call it a debate. More like finding common ground on a sort of a liberal lol. Also, hello, Vince. Hello. Good to see you. Sai. Appreciate the $20 as usual. Super donor Sai, we call her. Appreciate it. Look at that. She sets off the thing twice. I don't know what. So whenever I click it once, it doesn't go off. And then I click it twice, it goes off twice. Okay, I guess that's how it works. Thank you for the $20. I mean, like I said, I think if there were a moderator between us, you could probably incite more content between us. But I was trying to moderate and debate at the same time. So if you say, Vince, you didn't push back here or that, it's because I'm trying to move the discussion forward while also. So it has to be both an interview and a debate. Okay, so that's kind of the reason why, So, but yeah, thank you for the $20. I appreciate it very much. And yeah, I mean, Peter told me he does know some people in political Discord servers, so we could maybe get some. I want to get a diversity of discussions on. I think they're entertaining. I think they're interesting to say the least. Let's see, Dao, weren't you on a show somewhere? Yeah, I was on that Vice thing. I was on the Vice debate with the Asians, half of whom were not even Asian, very ironically. They called it an Asian American debate, and there's about 4 out of 8 were actually Asian American. Okay, let me just say that. It was funny. But Sheeny Beanie for $2 says Mickey will moderate next time. Or no, yeah. Mickey said he'll moderate next time. Sheeny Beanie, thank you for the 2. I don't know if I want Mickey Mouse to moderate. I think that'd be quite terrifying. Could you imagine? I'm not sure. It would help, but also I don't know if we always need it. I mean, sometimes we need it, but did it fail to be entertaining? No, I don't really like this whole sit down format all the time of, well, you know what I could do though? I guess what we could do is in the future we could make them like panels. Like we get like 3 to 4 people on. So that way I can moderate, but also I don't have to argue against all of the points because I have to also steer the discussion. So we bring some conservatives on to kind of help, and then maybe multiple liberals. I think that might be an idea. But I don't know. Andrew says, "Oh, bro, you killed it." I mean, look, the stuff on gendered, he admitted, and I quote, that it's made up. So I don't know what some of you guys want from me. You know, that's we had the discussion, okay? Wait, you mean the Vice thing? Yes, those Vice fools hated you so much. Oh yeah, that is true. That is true. Very real. Friendly Medic for $2 says, Vince, what are your thoughts on the VTuber question? What exactly is VTuber? Like, let me Google the definition of that just so I can know exactly what it is. A virtual YouTuber, someone who uses a virtual avatar using computer graphics. Oh, so a virtual YouTuber. I don't know. I think there's something kind of like satanic about that. It's just very strange. You have an avatar who speaks and it's like your voice and you're basically an AI YouTube channel. I don't know. I know there are ways a lot of people are running these AI YouTube channels now. They're making a lot of money and I guess, okay, respect the hustle. But if you are just going to go make content and you won't show your face and instead, I'm looking here, they put these anime profile pictures to talk for them through the technology. That's just freaky. That's just freaky. I'm not a fan. Either if you're gonna do a full AI YouTube channel, I guess, or whatever. But if you're gonna talk through it and then show your face, not show your face though, and make it anime. All these are anime girls I'm seeing in the definition of the VTuber here. Strange. I'll say it's sus. It's a little bit sus. Thank you for the $2. Peter for $2 says Biden needed Coke for energy. I love a panel too. Thank you for the $2, Peter. And that's the guy we debated, by the way. So be sure to say hi. Thanks for the 2. So Peter thinks that the cocaine in the White House is apparently from Joe himself. I've been thinking that though too. You guys may have heard they found more unknown illicit substances in the White House today. And I mean, look, the theory of, one time, Hunter left it behind. That makes sense 1 or 2 times. They keep finding all these substances. Does anyone really believe this is still a matter of Hunter necessarily? Unless Hunter visits that often. But I feel like another theory that makes sense is they give Biden this stuff so he has the energy to be alive and actually give speeches. So thank you for the 2. I definitely, I could see the angle there for sure. And we got a $20 super chat here from Burgundy Blue. Hold on, here we go. No sound effect, forget it. Who says, what do you think of the claim by leftists that American westward expansion's policies inspired the German government in the 1940s? Personally, I think is completely a smear campaign, speaking as a Polish American. Thank you for the $20. Big donation there from Burgundy Blue, as usual. Super donor. Burgundy Blue. Well, I do know that like segregation in the South inspired partially some stuff there, but American westward expansion, I mean, I don't know. And even then, right? I take back what I just said about the first thing though too, is because I think that sometimes when they were trying to argue against their detractors, they said, oh, well, look, America did this or America did that, therefore this or that. But do you really believe that the German government in the 1940s just like copied America or something? I think they came up with their own ideas and maybe, you know, hey, if in a debate about it, hey, look, well, America did this or that, so why are you so good? I mean, I could see that angle. But yeah, I don't think that manifest destiny is the reason why Mr. H did other stuff. I think that it basically is because, you know, Mr. H is considered in the cultural zeitgeist to be the worst guy ever, and then America, they want to tear down history. So I think that's really a contemporary attempt to, you know, fuse the two and accuse one of the other. So yeah, I would agree with you. Thank you for the 20. I would agree with you. I think that's what it's really about, right? It's more to discredit. It's more of a modern, contemporary left-wing argument to discredit American history by saying, look, we're just like the Germans of the 1940s. So what makes us different? You know, I think that's kind of what they're trying to say there. But thank you for the $20 there. Big donation. Yeah, exactly. Expanding a nation is extremely common. But yeah, apparently, you know, the United States were the first people to expand and conquer parts of territory, because that's never happened before. Yeah, I think that's totally made up nonsense. But all right, folks, we will end here at about 9:10 or so p.m. So last call here. Any last super chats you want to send in, feel free to do them. We're going to end here in a few minutes. So Technology Impossible says, how do I contact for a debate? Well, that would probably, it would probably be a good idea to advertise that, right? Okay, here. So you send me an email at vincedao.tv.com. Okay, vincedao.tv@gmail.com. Okay. So there's the business email there if you wanna discuss something. I mean, let me know what side you're coming from, what you want to discuss, whatever. I probably won't get to everyone's request. I'll have to pick whatever. But I'll add the roster, add the list. I want to change it up on the channel. I don't want to always every single night do just straight up news coverage and commentary. I feel like discussions, interviews. I want to start switching it up. Bringing some more life, I guess, into the show. Like different types of content. So I definitely want to do this more often. Peter said he's down to come back, and I'd like to get different people. So yeah, I mean, libertarian, that'd be a good debate panel too. We could do like a libertarian versus conservative panel. I got to figure out how to set up panels though, because the way I currently do it on Zoom, like you can only do one guest for my little thing. But I think if we do Discord, anyone know on that front, we can get multiple screens going at once. So I got to look into it. But I think some panels would be interesting, right? We could even Friday night, every Friday night going forward. By the way, there's going to be no show tomorrow. I know it's 7/14. I know it's the anniversary. Everyone wants to see a show. But I'm going to West Palm Beach for the Turning Point event. So there's not going to be a show tomorrow. Okay, sad, I know. But we'll make content. The flip side is we may do some collaboration content because we're at a conservative event. So you give some, you take some, right? But in the future, maybe every Friday night we could do a panel or a debate or whatever. I mean, and we could do it live in the future too. I know we pre-recorded this because it was the first time doing it. I don't want to screw anything up, but I think we could definitely do it live going forward. So yeah. All right, Mr. Rat for 50 SEKs from Sweden. Good to see you, Mr. Rat. Says, did you see the clip of the viral clip of a climate activist getting knocked out by a camera live while storming a stage here in Sweden? Thank you for the 50. I have not seen that, man. I have not seen that. And look, YouTube, I disavow violence or anyone getting hurt, but if you storm the stage and then, something falls on you and you get hit in the head, I mean, in a way, I guess you did kind of ask for it, right? Thank you for the 50. I've not seen that, man. I'm sure I'll see it on Twitter later, but I appreciate that. And I appreciate the 50, and I got to check that out. That sounds kind of hilarious. No show on 7/14. What an L. Well, what are you going to do? But if you're going to the Turning Point event in West Palm Beach, Florida, I'll be there. So say hi. Say hi. You have seen me with the beard, so don't not recognize me because, they're like, who's that bearded Asian man? He looks an awful lot like Vince Dow, but Vince Dow doesn't have a beard. Well, he does. So, just so you know. But yeah, that'll be an interesting time, I guess. Tucker Carlson is there. Donald Trump's there. Ron DeSantis, very interestingly, refused to spoke at it. They invited all the 2024 candidates. And it's like, this is the biggest conservative event of the summer, I would argue, but especially in his state, right? And Trump is speaking, but also not just Trump. Vivek is speaking. Francis Suarez, the Miami mayor, speaking. Asa Hutchinson, who is a total liberal governor from Arkansas, but he's a 2024 candidate. He's speaking there. But very interestingly, Ron DeSantis decided he didn't want to speak at the Turning Point event. I have a video on this coming tomorrow, but I think that's a huge mistake, in my opinion. Because you're talking about, again, the biggest conservative event of the summer. It's like the CPAC of the summer, which I don't think DeSantis spoke at CPAC either, now that I think of it, right? Oh, it's Donald Trump. It's Donald Trump. Well, now you're handing Donald Trump the exclusive platform because no one cares about Asa Hutchinson, right? And I don't understand their strategy there. I don't understand it. I mean, not that I'm exactly complaining I'm a Trump guy, but what is this DeSantis strategy of let me be seen and heard as little as possible, right? He won't go on Megyn Kelly's show, first of all. That was revealed a few months ago. He wouldn't go on Megyn Kelly, who is, right-wing, right? She may push back on some things, grill him, ask him some tough questions, but she's kind of on the right? Wouldn't go on that podcast. Patrick Bet David yesterday, who is totally friendly to him, Patrick Bet David revealed that the DeSantis team won't get back to them either. That's a big time one of the biggest podcasts in the world, and it's in the state of Florida. He's a Republican. He's a money guy. He likes DeSantis, and he's in the state of Florida. He famously moved his company to Florida. So that's the biggest podcast politically in the state of Florida is the Patrick Bet David podcast. He won't go on that one. So he won't go on Megyn Kelly. He won't go on PBD, and he won't speak at SAS or AtCon or whatever it's called. What is the strategy for Ron DeSantis? I don't get it. I don't get that. I have a video on that coming tomorrow. Just wanted to pose some thoughts there. You're down 30 points behind to Trump. What is the strategy of being seen and heard as little as possible? How is that going to deliver you results in the primary? Well, you have a comeback to make, right? And think about this on your own end. Ron DeSantis, when he announced for president, blah, blah, blah. Okay, big thing, big whoop, right? Have you seen or heard from him since then? I feel like we heard more from Ron DeSantis when he was governor of Florida, just doing governor things, than we do now. It's like he's fallen off into a media deep end. And I think part of that is self-inflicted because you have these people, right? Turning Point says, hey, come speak at our thing. We're inviting all the 2024 candidates. Well, I don't want to be seen there. Okay. Well, guess what? That whole platform, again, in your home state, that's a bad look too. It's in Florida. All goes to Trump, right? Hey, Patrick Bet David, one of the biggest podcasts out there. I want to interview you, Ron DeSantis. Nope, he won't do that. Megyn Kelly, another one of the biggest shows, won't do that. And then on the flip side, what is Trump doing? Trump's holding these. Trump is speaking at all of the events, right? With a few exceptions, but he's speaking at all these events. Faith and Freedom, he speaks at. Turning Point, he's speaking at. He's being seen, is my point. He's being seen everywhere. And he's also doing he's doing interviews with everyone. He's not only doing friendly interviews. He did the CNN town hall with Caitlin Collins, right? So he went into CNN and said, I'll take you head on. For some reason with DeSantis, they won't even do Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly's, right wing. Yeah, she may ask him some hard questions, but you're not exactly debating Caitlin Collins out there, right? He won't do that. He won't even do Patrick Bet David, who, from everything I've gathered, I think he likes both Trump and DeSantis. But it seems to me Patrick Bet David actually prefers DeSantis. It seems. He hasn't made an endorsement, but it seems that would be a totally cush interview. Be a friendly interview. And he's a very cordial interviewer. DeSantis, for some reason, won't do that. And I know PBD's co-host loves DeSantis. He won't do that. That's right in your state. 4 million subscribers, right? What's the strategy here? He's not being seen anywhere. And DeSantis people, I'm going to talk about this tomorrow in a video, but DeSantis people, what's going on? What's going on, man? But anyways, let's get caught up here. Last few super chats. Actually, we are $2 away from $100 tonight. So if anyone wants to send in one last super chat, feel free to do so. But let's get caught up here to our last super chats. Hold on. My ear is itchy. Okay. All right. My ear was getting so itchy. That was crazy. All right, here we go. Last few super chats for the night. Burgundy Blue for $2 says not doing a 714 stream. This is literally 1984. This is literally 714. Yeah, this is literally 714. I am driving all the way to West Palm Beach tomorrow. So, who knows? Maybe 714 will happen on the road. God forbid. I don't want the car to stop. Oh, wouldn't it be so funny if my car stopped, the engine stopped working because, as you know, the mic stopped working on 714? Let's hope that doesn't happen, but it is real. Thank you for the $2. Look, I'm sorry. We last year, first of all, most of the new audience doesn't even know what 714 is. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is we did one last year. So, it's been 2 years now, so. But now I feel like a lot of people don't even know what it is. But anyways, here we go. We got another super chat here. Potato Head for $2 says, how much funding is needed to make you the Emperor of Rome? We're probably going to need several $1 million to say the least, Potato Head. So, But every dollar counts. Every dollar counts. Thank you for the $2. Well, oops. Oh, did I cut off the stream? We're still live, right? I accidentally closed out of the little streaming window here. No, I think we're still good. Okay. Wanted to make sure. All right. Anyways, here you go. But you know what? I was looking. I have been looking. I do have to say. And okay, are we live, guys? I didn't cut it off, did I? Okay, no, we are. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay, we're good. So I do have to say, I have been thinking. Okay, while it would probably take billions of dollars to ride on Rome, the cheapest Ferrari, the Ferrari California, definitely haven't been Googling it. Just, to make goals, aspirations, whatever, is about 150 grand. So if anyone wants to write me a check for 150 grand, I'll buy the Ferrari and we can be emperor that way, right? We can be a Roman emperor that way. So that's the cheaper solution. Either we buy a Ferrari and just declare ourselves emperor, or we have to go all the way to Italy and somehow buy out the whole government. Or so those are the two options. Those are the two options, frankly. But anyways, here we go. Last super chat here from Mutant Master Race. Here we go. Mutant Master Race says, Peter, what's your favorite Fallout game? Well, that's a question for Peter. Frankly, if it is anything besides New Vegas, then he's a total libtard, because that, any answer that is not New Vegas is simply incorrect. He says Fallout 4. Oh, it's so over, Peter. Typical liberal. Typical libtard. You like Fallout 4. Shame on you, Peter. We need to red pill him, guys. Okay? We need to red pill him. Fallout 4 is an okay game, but it does not rival New Vegas on any level. Well, the gameplay's better, I'll give you that, but that is such a contemporary modernist take. Frankly, it is anti-tradition. Okay. But all right, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, if we got no more super chats, I will wrap up the show tonight. Like I said, no live tomorrow. We will be live back next week, 8 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday, as usual. But I will have my videos during the weekend, so don't worry. I mean, there's not going to be no content until Monday, but we will not be live until Monday, okay? So be sure to leave a like on the stream before you go. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I'm going to assume you're already subscribed, but if not, be sure to subscribe. And also be sure to join our newsletter, folks. We now have an email list, okay? So actually, let's talk about that really quickly before we close out the night. VinceDaoTV.com. Everyone go to VinceDaoTV.com. Sign up for our email list. Sign up for our newsletter. Biggest reason why is that if we ever get deplatformed, struck down, TOS, YouTube just likes to play funny business, that email list is going to be the only way to keep in touch with me, okay? Because, yeah, you can follow me on other social medias, but guess what? They might take those down too, right? Because we've seen several people where it happens all at once. So go and sign up for the email list at VinceDaoTV.com. Again, VinceDaoTV.com. Go sign up for the email list. And every 100 subscribers to the email list, we hit 100 subscribers today on the first day, which is pretty good. Every 100 or so subscribers, I'll be dropping exclusive content and all of that stuff. So, and by the way, like today, right? I released a debate because we hit 100 subscribers on the email list. So go sign up, VinceDaoTV.com before you go. All right, until then, folks, see you guys Monday. Alpha moves only, God bless. Say hi if you see me in West Palm Beach this weekend. And yeah, peace. See you guys. VinceDaoTV.com. Go type it in. Go. Actually, let me put it in the live chat just so we can. Here you go. https://VinceDaoTV.com. Did that go through? Did I do that right? I did. Yes. See, it's there in the live chat. Go and subscribe to the email list. All right. Good night, guys. See you later.